here with one of our great Grandmaster Scholar warriors. You've heard me talk about it before. We're here with the one and only Dr. Wade Nobles. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing well. Glad to be on your program.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, as I was saying before we started, you know, it's been 10 years since I've interviewed you, and I saw you at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History in Detroit, February 25th, 2017, when you spoke with Dr. Leonard Jeffries and Professor James Small, two of my teachers. So it's good to have you back on, man. And that was the day my daughter was born also. So that was a crazy day.
That was a day.
This COVID is causing the National Association of Black Psychologists. We're going to have our national convention.
Mm-hmm. You're going to have your national convention. What? Are you breaking up? Can you still hear me? Okay, can you hear me? Hold on just a second here. You're breaking up. People on Facebook, let me know if you, okay, there you go. I hear you again. Okay, National Black Association, National Association of Black Psychologists. Uh-huh.
We were having our convention in Detroit this year, and we were doing some programming at the museum, but COVID put all that on the back burner.
Absolutely, brother. Well, I totally understand that, man. It's disrupted basically everything. And I had a full schedule from March through November speaking out of state, and that's all up in the air, brother. That's all gone. But the reason why I wanted to have you on is because the documentary Hapi, The Role of Economics on the Development of Civilization, the world premiere is on Thursday, July 18th. And I've interviewed Professor James Small, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, and also Dr. Julie Malveaux, who are featured in the film. And you're also featured in this film as well. So it's a fantastic film. And first, I want to just give a brief introduction to our followers who may not be familiar with you. Now, I first found out about you on the TV show For the People in the early 1990s, hosted by Lister Belt Middleton, which came out of South Carolina. Okay, that's why I first saw you, and he interviewed you.
Okay, you're breaking up, and now you're not. I
was letting people know I first found out about you in the early 1990s on the TV show For the People, hosted by Lister Belt Middleton.
Yes.
And he interviewed you, and I heard you talk about power's ability to define and shape reality, have other people accept your definition of reality as if it were their own. So, yes. But for over 4 decades, Dr. Wade Nobles has studied classical African philosophy, Kemet, Twa, and Nubian, and traditional African wisdom traditions coming from the Akan, Yoruba, Bantu, Wolof, Dogon, etc., as the grounding for the development of an authentic Black psychology, Dr. Wade Nobles is a founding member of the Association of Black Psychologists and former national president from 1994 to 1995. He is professor emeritus of Africana Studies and Black Psychology at San Francisco State University, and the author of over 100 articles, chapters, research reports, and books. He's the co-author of the seminal article in Black Psychology, Voodoo or IQ, an Introduction to African Psychology. And Dr. Wade Nobles is the co-founder and past executive director of the Institute for the Advanced Study of Black Family Life and Culture, Inc., a freestanding, independent, community-based, nonprofit Black think tank and scientific educational training and research corporation based in Oakland, California. So we want to welcome back to the African History Network show, Baba, Dr. Wade Nobles. All right, brother.
Glad to be back.
Oh, absolutely. So first of all, let people know, how did you get involved in this film, Hapi, The Role of Economics on the Development of Civilization, from director Taki Grant?
Well, Taki reached out to me, and I think that Dr. Jeffries, and Professor Small and I have been working together for I don't know how long. And so I guess once they were involved, I got involved. It's like racing cars, and you take the wind tail, draft. But I was the draft wind that came along with them.
Absolutely. Well, you know, Taki talked to me about this project a year and a half ago, something like that. So it's good to see the real fruits of the labor. All right.
It's a major piece of work. It's a major piece of work, not just because we all those people are in it, but because of the conversation that we're having about how we place ourselves and locate ourselves in the world historically as well as contemporary times.
Okay. So one of the things I noticed, even going back to early 1990s, your interview that Listerville Middleton, the host of For the People, did with you, you make a distinction between African American or African or Black psychology and white psychology. Okay. You make a distinction between the two, and you talked about the influence of culture. Okay. Yeah. How culture influences the way people think, feel, act, and behave. Can you talk about that briefly?
Yes. Let me start with culture, because I think that's the life stuff.
Yes.
People get confused and think culture is about song and dance and holidays and ceremonies and eating barbecue and fried fish and all that stuff. We do all that stuff, but that's not the essential of culture. Culture, and I like to use the example of in our chemistry classes, we would learn how to do experiments with petri dishes.
Right.
And the stuff in the petri dish is called culture, and the life forms you put in the culture grows determine the nature of the gook or the culture in the petri dish. Well, for humans, culture is the stuff that produces life, that shapes life, and so on everything in terms of customs, traditions, right, practices, all that comes out of culture. Culture is technically the process which gives you a general design for living and patterns for interpreting reality. Well, if culture does that, then we have to look at these things called scientific, social scientific disciplines. Well, white psychology really is the psychology that emerged out of the philosophy and culture of the West. Had nothing to do with Black people. And in fact, the culture of the West is driven by this ideology of white supremacy.
Yes.
You can't separate it. So then if you have a science of human functioning that is grounded in white supremacy, how can we use that as the psychological medium to explain and understand our behavior? That's really what the break was about. The break to form a Black psychology was about recognizing what is the philosophical and cultural grounding in which Black life should stand. Right. And it clearly wasn't Europe. It clearly wasn't America, white America. So we had to begin to do the work of formulating and creating. And I say it's a science of human functioning, because the Western white psychology is so contaminated, confusion. It is, in my mind, is useless for us. Even though we are making the best of it in many of our practices as therapists and clinicians.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I had a conversation years ago with someone who I went to middle school with, and they became a psychologist. And I was talking about some of your information and Black psychology and understanding the role culture plays. And they told me, there is no Black psychology. They were using the white standard of psychology as the standard for everybody. And I remember you years ago talking about normality, and how normality is defined as the majority of a people exhibiting a particular behavior. Okay, so how could white people become the standard of normality when they are a minority in the world, population wise, only about 10% of the population?
And it's simple. They could become that by my definition of power. Power is the ability to define reality and to have other people respond to your definition as if it were their own. Exactly. White folks simply stood up and said, we are the standard of humanity.
Yes.
They defined themselves as the standard of humanity, and they became the universal. And once we all accepted, including your childhood friend, once we all accepted that, they had power over us.
Exactly. But they did that after they came out of the Dark Ages, got the information that the African Moors took into Europe. They start conquering people's lands, extracting the wealth out of people's lands and things like this, and rebuild Europe. And then as you have a rise in these European powers, you have a rise in the European phenotype as becoming the standard. And they start to reinterpret these mythological or religious figures. So Michelangelo paints the Sistine Chapel and uses his relatives as the model for Adam and Eve, and paints God as being white, things like this, right?
I agree with exactly what you say, but I would edit it. It wasn't a reinterpretation. It was a lie.
It was a lie. Yeah, right. Yeah, I just right.
So they just lied about their location in the world of the human family.
Right.
They lied about it. So we have to be honest and clear with complete transparency.
Right.
If it's water, if it's wet, call it water.
Right.
When they lie, they lie. They don't reinterpret it, because reinterpret says there's a possibility of error.
Yeah.
Lie says there's the possibility of wrongdoing.
Mm-hmm.
And they were wrongdoing.
Right. Absolutely.
Universality.
Absolutely. All right. Now, explain to people, with all this going on right now with COVID-19, this COVID-19 crisis, the impact it's having on the economy, trauma inflicted upon everybody, especially African Americans. Explain to people what actually is mental health.
There is no mental health.
Okay.
Mental health is a concept that comes out of the European mindscape.
Okay.
Because they took their model, which really comes out of Descartes' confusion. Descartes divided the mind in science and religion, wanted to have that. So he talked about the split between the mind and the body. Physical medicine grew up, and Western psychology tried to become legitimate by claiming it has the same authority as physical medicine. And so rather than have physical health, we also have mental health. That's not true. That's true in terms of their indigenous thought. It is not true in terms of African world thought.
Right.
African says, my reading of it, so I want to be clear that so folk can throw this away if they want to, but my reading of our wisdom traditions suggests that it is not mental health being the mind version of the physical body, but what is our wellness is simply that. It is wellness.
Mm-hmm.
It is wellness that is the concept. So when are human beings well? And that wellness has to do with both our mindscape as well as our physical being.
Right.
In fact, it also has to do with our existence in the afterlife. And that don't even come in the conversation in the Western world, that we have to look at our dwellers of heaven, our ancestors. How are they well? And in being well in the afterlife, how does that inform our being well in this life? So our stuff is far more elegant and far more complex. I reject the idea of mental health. I accept the idea of being well. And my wellness has to do with the alignment of my essence, my experience, and my expression.
Okay.
How I look in the world, that's the experience, that's the expression. How I feel in the world, that's the experience. And how is my essence, that's my spirit, activated. And there are all kinds of things. So those 3 E's for me work nice as a little cute mnemonic, that I have to have a divine alignment in order to be well. I have to have my essence, which is my spirit, my experiences, which is where I live. And that's the problem for us as African people throughout the world, is because Europe and America has so contaminated and toxified the world that our experiences are always out of alignment.
Right.
And then our expression has to do with how the world sees our face. Think about this just for a moment. Everything about our physicality as Black has been denigrated. Our lips are too big, our nose is too fat, our hair's too kinky, everything. And so our face in the world, which is our expression, has been so denigrated that we run away from ourselves.
Right. Right. Exactly.
We do everything to change our face. That's our expression. Even the stuff they put on as an adornment, how we dress, the clothes we wear, how we suit up, we think we're doing fine. All that stuff is expressions.
So you break it up.
And we go to France for the best look. We never go to Africa and tailor to talk about what's the best look. That's the damage. That's the damage. Because that's the damage that has happened in American ideas of what it is to be human.
Hold on just a second, Doc. You
Stop.
I can hear you, but your screen is freezing up. Okay, there we go. All right, it's caught up. Okay, yeah, absolutely. Once again, France or European nations become the standard for fashion. Okay,
everything that is the good.
Yeah,
that's how it everything that is the good is sent to Europe and America to define, and we run behind doing it. We run even the aberrancy of some of our gangster rap that happens with our young people. They take on mafioso names.
Right, like Gotti.
yeah. You see,
Capone.
We don't realize that we have been so damaged, and I say spirit damaged, that we don't even realize that we think we're being cool. We're simply being a mule.
A mule.
When you breed a horse and a donkey, you get a mule, and the mule is incapable of reproducing itself. You follow me? And so when we borrow their stuff, we mulify ourselves, and we walk around, but we can't produce an authentic African idea. We can reproduce their shit, language. We can reproduce. Not only reproduce this stuff, reproduce it better than them. That's the amazing.
Exactly.
But that's a mule.
Right.
We're mulifying ourselves when we adopt this stuff uncritically.
I totally agree with that, brother. And we would defend the nonsense. That's the thing. We would defend the nonsense to the end of time. All right. So what do you think, and this ties into the film Hapi as well, what do you think we can do to reverse all of this, to reverse the brain damage, the indoctrination by European white supremacy and European culture? What do you think we can do to fight against that and reverse that? And how do you think the film Hapi plays a role in that?
The Hapi is like the cowbell the old folks used back in the day when they hit the cowbell, say, "Time to come eat."
Right.
Well, Hapi's the cowbell.
Yeah.
It's ringing to us. It's time to come and eat.
The call to action.
Come to action, right? And the thing that is important for me about Hapi, everything in there needs to be not watched as entertainment, but watched as instruction.
Right.
And it's going to be hard because we've been conditioned to watch films and movies as entertainment. That's our mulified mind. Sit and watch entertainment. And if you don't catch me with some action, I turn it off. Because that's what we've been conditioned. But Hapi has to be not watched as entertainment, but as instruction. And in its instruction, it says something very profound. And I think it was Dr. J that points it out about his pyramid of power, economics, and culture.
The pyramid principle. Yep.
Pyramid principle. That's so important because for me, the most important trajectory on that pyramid is the culture. Because the culture determines how you deal with economics, it determines how you deal with politics. But we don't pull that out, rescue that and fluff that out and then interrogate it, we will miss the point. And it becomes like a mnemonic, it's a little easy saying, pyramid power. We run around saying stuff and don't know what it means. So Hapi has to be studied. And in that part that I think is important, for me, it's the cultural piece. Because it is through culture that we heal a whole race.
Yes.
It is through economics that we can give some people an advantage and some people don't. Because we follow the European model of avaricious capitalism. So some people are going to have a whole lot of money, economic, some people ain't. And in terms of politics, same thing. You can have some people benefit from the power of politics and some people who are exploited by the power of politics. So for me, the critical piece is culture, if we're going to heal the whole race. And I've been thinking about this for a while now.
Okay.
Probably since the last time I talked to Lester Middlefield. But I think there are 3 or 4 big ideas that we should embrace as we try to heal our people. The first big idea, and they're not in any order, so don't do that with them. But the first big idea is to rescue our traditional healing rituals. Rescue our traditional healing rituals. Because in those rituals, we define the value of life. And the healing rituals that I want us to first interrogate are those rituals, healing rituals that they have demonized. Voodoo,
Right.
Because we've been taught to run away from voodoo. As young men, we talk about, if you meet a little girl and she's from Louisiana, we put caution on. Don't eat her rice. Don't eat her rice because she put something on you.
Right.
So we've been taught to be afraid
put a root on you.
Put a root on you. So I'm saying we should rescue our traditional healing practice, voodoo, Ifa, candomblé, Santeria, all those that have been bastardized as traditional pagan religions should be uplifted as traditional science of the spirit. Now let's interrogate it. That's one thing we need to do if we're going to heal our whole race. The second thing I think we do is to restore wellness in our families and community as a lifestyle. Wellness in our families and communities as a lifestyle. You notice I didn't say individuals because the lowest common denominator is family, not individual. If the family is not well, individuals don't matter. If the family is not well, communities dysfunction. So we have to restore wellness. Remember I said earlier, wellness is the alignment of essence, experience, and expression. So we need to restore wellness in our families and community. The third thing I want us to interrogate as we deal with Hapi and other thoughts, other images, is to reignite light and love in our reality. Light and love. Light is the illumination. It is called Saku. That's in my work. I use Saku as a term, but Saku really means the illumination. So how do we deal with always illuminating, peeling back the okie-doke, looking at the deep meaning? That's illumination. In love, the term for love is Zola in Congo, in Kikongo. Zola, Z-O-L-A. Zola is love, and love ignites the internal self-healing potential. Love is not romantic stuff. It's not the romance stuff we see on Days of Our Lives and all those stories and stuff.
Right.
Love is a powerful force that ignites our self-healing potential. So I'm saying, in order to heal a whole race, we're gonna walk around talking about how do you love Black folk. The first requirement is, do you love Black people?
Right.
Because if you love Black people, you are instantaneously igniting their self-healing potential. All right. And the final one is to reclaim the authority of eldership, not old people. Authority of eldership. The ones who walk in the world as elders have wisdom and intelligence, but they also have the authority to protect us from ignorance. That's the primary responsibility of elder, to protect his people, his or her people, from ignorance. So we take those four things and we start systematically talking about how do we do that as we engage in being an entrepreneur? How do we do those as we engage in being a medical doctor? How do we do those engaged in being a teacher, a plumber, a bus driver? Whatever is our, in quote, occupations, we should be driven by those four principles if we're going to heal the whole race.
Exactly. So we have rescue traditional healing rituals. And
if I may add it myself, it's really rescuing the traditional healing science.
Healing science, yeah.
Ritual, we think about it's just some little practice that we do, like we have some ritual, we burn a candle, ring a bell, and we cool. No, it's science.
Right, so science of the spirit.
Healing science of the spirit, yes.
Yeah, science of the spirit.
And we have some models that we have to interrogate. We have to take them back, interrogate them. Voodoo, take it back from them. Don't have no bones in my nose, take it back from them.
Right.
Santeria, candomblé, Ifa, take those back from the Western captivity and look at them and examine them for 2020 time, not 1500s time.
And when we look at things like Santeria, candomblé, those were spiritual systems that infused Ifa, coming from the Yoruba during the transatlantic slave trade. They infused Ifa with Catholicism.
Yes,
Catholicism is being forced on us. African people infuse what they already have into what's being forced upon us. Yes. Okay, and then something new came from it, the Santeria and candomblé. But when we look at Ifa coming from the Yoruba, we really need to study that, because that's one of the more popular spiritual systems coming out of Africa.
We got to clean it up because we've had dirt put on us.
Yes, that's true.
The root really is voodoo.
Yeah.
Right. And then Counter Blade, Santeria, and other things come branches.
Right. Those
branches get dirt on them, and I don't want to offend anybody who's a practitioner.
Right.
But understand that when we had to combine Catholicism, which was already a mutation of original Kemetic spiritual system. See, we have to recognize that, and then we have to do the work.
Right.
Do the work.
Right.
Like the old fashioned scrub board. We're gonna get the old bucket, put the scrub board in, and scrub, get our stuff clean, and then we can use it. We're still using it now. It's still powerful. That's why they're so afraid of it. That's why they spend all their time demonizing voodoo. If someone did the calculation of the money they spent in writing books and making movies that demonize just one thing, voodoo, you'd be amazed. Well, they saw that's where the power is.
Well, so voodoo or vodun, and we're dealing with the originally coming from the foe of what's called the home of the Home. Yes. This was you're dealing with a powerful African spiritual system, but this is something that's used by the Haitians to defeat the French during the Haitian Revolution.
And when you read my book, you see detailed documentation of that.
Yep.
That's exactly right. You're exactly right.
Right. Hold on just a second. Right here. Here's his book.
While we were for the Haitian Revolution, we were fighting the physical battle, but it was spirit warfare that caused us to win.
Spiritual warfare.
We ain't had no big battleships. We ain't had a whole lot of cannons until we stole some. But we ain't had a whole lot of cannons. We ain't even had a whole lot of boots.
Right.
We stole some. But what we had was voodoo.
Exactly. And Dr. Wade Nobles is featured in the documentary 1804 Hidden History of Haiti by director Tariq Nasheed. So is three of my teachers, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, Professor James Small, and Professor Kabahaya Wafa Kamene. But here is one of Dr. Wade Nobles' books, The Island of Memes, Haiti's Unfinished Revolution. Okay. So check this out. This is exactly what this brother's talking about. All right. And he autographed it for me also. He autographed it for me as well. Okay, I got this from him at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History, February 25th, 2017, when he spoke there with Dr. Leonard Jeffries and Professor James Small. That was the day my daughter was born also, so I remember that day. Okay.
That's the important part of that day.
Huh? Yes, that was the
important part of the day, your daughter being born.
Yeah. That was the highlight of the day. Absolutely. Okay. So for those just tuning in, I'm speaking with one of our great Grandmaster Scholar Warriors, Dr. Wade Nobles. He is featured in the upcoming documentary, the new documentary, Hapi, The Role of Economics on the Development of Civilization, from director Taki Grant. Visit the website hapifilm.com. Let's see, we got it right here. Hapifilm.com, HAPI, hapifilm.com. The world premiere is going to be Thursday, July 18th, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time online. You will be able to digitally download the film at the end of the premiere. There will be other times that they will show it as well. So you can go to hapifilm.com to get your tickets. Okay, so I one of the things I talk about is how people's history and culture teaches them how to deal with the problems of the past in the present and the future to meet the needs of the community. And all this ties into this history and our psychology. With all this going on with coronavirus, would you classify the impact of the coronavirus on the African-American community as psychological or mental warfare?
Well, we can react to the coronavirus as psychological, because everything is spirit driven, and what the West calls psychology is really spirit, and so the coronavirus is a physical disease or dis-at-ease.
Okay.
And we respond to it because we've been trained by the West to respond to any kind of disease like polio pandemic, etc. But the critical part about this moment is that the coronavirus has allowed us to outdoor the twin virus, which is white supremacy. White supremacy is an airborne disease. It's airborne.
Right.
And it affects us. So we're living in a dual global pandemic, COVID-19 and white supremacy 2020. Right. We're seeing white supremacy now in the 2020 version. It's always been with us. It's always affected us. So how COVID seeing itself as a mental, a psychological problem is that it is literally outdooring white supremacy. We're still talking about it in the wrong language, like it's racism. It ain't racism. Racism is a symptom. White supremacy is the disease.
Right. Exactly.
And so, and it is so COVID has allowed us, because of this sheltering in place, is to stop for a minute and think. Mm-hmm. That's the good part about it. We had to stop, sit down. We locked down now, so we had to stop and think for a moment. What's really going on? And what's going on is that this COVID-19 virus is recalibrating the world. Mm-hmm. It ain't no place that's safe. Right. There ain't no place that your status, your gender, nothing is safe. So COVID-19 is recalibrating the world. And in some divine way, it could be that this is the way, COVID is the way for the earth to cleanse itself. The water seems to be cleaner. The grass seems to be greener. Right. The birds are singing more. So it might be that COVID-19 is recalibrating the planet Earth to be better. Mm-hmm. And white supremacy 2020 is our opportunity to recalibrate what it means to be human and have human relationships, to kill white supremacy, to get rid of white supremacy. So the two tasks here. What do we do post-COVID-19 is the question.
Right.
What we do now with it. What we do post-COVID-19. And post-COVID-19, I think the world going to take care of itself. With floods, with earthquakes, with all kinds of stuff to get itself recalibrated. We human beings, which I think are spirit beings, have to recalibrate how do we live in the world as human beings post-COVID-19. We're dealing with this question of the global pandemic of white supremacy as an airborne disease.
The global pandemic of white supremacy as an airborne disease, right?
We breathe it. We go to the grocery. Think about it. When you go to the shopping mall before, you go out to dinner, and somebody puts you in the restaurant in the corner in the back because you're black, and you don't get your biscuits or your bread, but other folk are getting their dessert. You are breathing white supremacy in the restaurant. So for me, white supremacy is a global pandemic, airborne pandemic that all of us around the whole world breathe it and don't realize that we're being made ill by white supremacy.
Right. You know, when you talked about the difference between white supremacy and racism, that's something that I talk about. I describe racism as a system of advantage and privilege distributed based upon race, which comes out of the ideology of European white supremacy. Yes. And racism is a system that upholds the ideology of white supremacy. White supremacy is that ideology. And coming out of the dark ages and as Europeans circumnavigate the globe, well, first of all, they were dealing with the African Moors for hundreds of years. They saw what happens when Africans intermix with Europeans, because that's taking place throughout Europe to various degrees. But as they circumnavigate the globe, they intermix with these other people and they see the offspring is no longer European. So you have a system put in place to preserve genetic white survival. Let's
break it down very, very in detail.
Yes.
They intermix with other people by force. Mm-hmm. And so life produced by force resonates already with a mutation, resonates already with a problematic. And so we have to understand that this whole European circumnavigating the world was contaminating and putting toxins in other people's realities throughout the world.
Absolutely.
Once I got on a love boat, went to some place, I got on the beach, went on the beach, I saw this lady and we fell in love and we had children and all was good. No, they impregnated the world by the gun and by the sword and the dick.
Mm-hmm. Right. All right. Let people know how they can get your lectures, books, etc.? How can people support you and get your information?
Yeah, I have you have to ask the young people. I have a webpage somewhere.
Okay. I have it right here. It is drwadenobles.com. drwadenobles.com.
Writings are there. Some are free, some you're gonna put a nickel on, but all me is there.
Okay, we got it. And what we're gonna do?
I should say also, you can get me and people like me through the National Association of Black Psychologists. Our webpage, abpsi.org.
Give us that webpage again.
www.abpsi.org.
Okay.
That's the webpage of the National Association of Black Psychologists. And there's a whole bunch of folk that we are struggling with trying to make sense of the world through the lens of psychology. There's also a real important group, and I serve as their elder advisor, which is Black Therapy Central.org. And that's where folk can go and get connected up with Black therapists, healers who are African-centered. That's an important place because all Black folk, like your childhood friend, I would not, even though I love him because he's family, I would not send nobody to him for help. Because to cleanse ourselves of the Western contaminant, we don't do really a lot of service for our community. We can do so much because we all, Black folk always, we take what they got and we twist it and turn it to make it work for us. That's a limited utility. I want full healing, not partial healing.
Go ahead.
And for me, the full healing comes through the interrogation and the conversation with authentic Black psychology, which I'm saying is this notion of rescuing our Africanness, and then constructing that as a healing bomb. And both ABC and Black Therapist Central are places where people can go and get some help with that.
Okay, Black Therapist Central, is that .org or .com? Black Therapist Central.com. Black Therapist Central.com. And and the reason why this is so important is because so many African Americans are suffering from various types of trauma, whether it's physical, sexual, whether it's handed down, it's generational. We look at things like epigenetics, the field of study dealing with epigenetics and how trauma can be passed down to future generations and alter your DNA, etc. And when we talk about, I know I was at the Congressional Black Caucus weekend. I think that was either 2015 or 2016. I know Dr. J was there. I know you were there. And there was a panel discussion on like reparations. When we talk about, reparations, a lot of people talk about cut the check and things like that. And, my thing is I'm all for reparations. I'm for making legal arguments for reparations. One, not wasting people's time. Two, the majority, to me, and for my analysis, my study, the majority of reparations should not be in the form of money, because if we all got $500,000 a day or 750,000, white people have it all back this time next week because we're so psychologically damaged. But I think part of the whole thing dealing with repairing the damage deals with the therapy that you were just talking about.
Yes.
Talk about that for a minute, if you don't mind.
I agree with you. Well, two things. I'm saying two things that may sound contradictory. If somehow we got a miracle and everybody got a $2 million check.
Right.
Yeah. A lot of us would $2 million go back to white folks. But some would not go back to white folks.
Right.
So I'm going to experiment with that.
Right. 97% of our dollars are spent on people that don't look like us. That pattern will continue.
Right. 3% might be the egg that we need to blossom.
Right.
That's one thing. But the other thing is that we talk about reparations, you have to deal with the root word, repair.
Yeah, repair. Right.
What needs to be repaired? It is not lost wages.
Right.
Not lost wages. What needs to be repaired is our beingness.
Right.
That takes us to where we sit as Saku Shedders or Black psychologists. We are the ones that are struggling with these ABC for the last 51 years. Struggling with trying to understand what it means to be Black, African with a Black face. And then if we understand what it means to be, that's what has to be repaired. We can no longer keep producing mules.
Right.
We have aliens. And stallions can only produce a stallion by mating with a stallion.
Right.
And so,
right.
So I think that for me, the reparation is the critical question right now.
Right.
It's always been
repairing the damage.
When the lion said you're going to get 40 acres of mule, that's when the deal got on the table. But we never get that. That was betrayed. But now at this breaking point right now, we can raise up that question again, reparations, but it's what needs to be repaired. And again, for me, it's not lost wages. It is not lost time. It is not even the brutality we experienced. The brutality was an instrument that damaged us. The white thought was the instrument that damaged us. So how do we repair ourselves away from white thought, away from white behavior, away from white values? That's the reparation process.
Right. And then, you know, as one of my teachers, Professor Kaba Kamene says, to understand the existence of something, you first must understand the pre-existence of existence. So we have to look at who African people were before we were damaged.
That's exactly right.
Understand what you're repairing.
That was our quest for breaking from white psychology. We had to go back before white psychology. We can't start with white psychology. Oh, that stuff is wrong. No, what do we do before white psychology? What did we do in that inner sanctum in ancient Kemet, where we engaged in Saku, the illumination, in Jer, Saku Jer. Saku is the illumination. The word DJR means the all. Saku Jer is, for me, the science that we should be engaged in as Black psychology. I like to say that, like Prince said, I'm formerly known as a Black psychologist. I am now a Saku Jerist. And the Saku Jerist is one who engages in the illumination, Saku Jer, of the all. We should be illuminating the all and then walk in the world as affirmative Saku beings.
Right. And the other point, just so people are not confused, because there's so much confusion out there, and I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way, but when you talk about a stallion, just so people understand, a stallion is a male adult horse that is not being castrated. And so when you got a woman calling herself a stallion, you know, I know they do that down south, but I'm just saying,
yes. Yes, you're right.
All right. All right, here. Go ahead. Huh?
I had an opportunity to go to my daughter was teaching as actually a principal in Kuwait.
Kuwait
in the Middle East. It's not even the Middle East. That's
right.
Ain't no middle, but
right.
But, you know what I'm saying. And so she brought me, her father, her brother to Kuwait, and on that going around, we went to the royal. What do you call them? What do you call them when they have horses? The royal stables.
Okay, royal stables.
And these Arabs understood that the elegance and the excellence of a certain breed of animal had to be taken care of with elegance and excellence. They didn't just throw them out the pasture and let them roam. They had these Arabian stallions were living better than most Black folk in the United States. You know what I'm saying? So I'm checking this out. I said, wait a minute. These are horses. This is an animal. This is a beast. They're living better than most of folk in my family in the United States. But the message here was that when you have something that is precious, in that you cherish it, you surround its environment with the instinct to be cherished. How do we create Black communities right now? Create Black communities where the instinct is that in this place you are cherished. Right. You're not ducking down from police killings or even from crazy Black folk killing. You're in an environment where you are cherished. So see, there are models we can think about. And
exactly.
So and I'm talking about let's be horses. I'm talking about understand that there's a being, because a horse is a being too. There are beings, and in the place of beings, how do you create an environment where that being is cherished?
Exactly.
That's what post-corona should be for us. We should be engaging in study and in politics and in environments that we engage in, so that when we post-corona, we create Black communities where being there is to be cherished.
Exactly. And this is why, you know, when Dr. Leonard Jefferson, Professor James Small teaching, they talk about the pyramid principle, and I use this in my teaching, and I show a pyramid of Khafre. The foundation is African history and culture that gives us our VIPs, our values, our interests, and our principles. It gives us this cultural paradigm that we see reality through, that influences our economic empowerment and our political empowerment. And and that foundation ties into our self-esteem, self-development, and self-worth. And you only protect what you respect. You only protect what you respect. So when you've been taught to hate yourself and hate people that look like you, you can't build what it is that you're talking about has to come post-corona. All right. Very quickly here, do you think this is the film Hapi? Would you recommend that families sit together with their children and watch the film Hapi?
I think adults should sit together and watch it.
Right.
Because you can't teach what you don't know.
Right.
So make it, strapping your child down, because our children, I'm going to sit through that really without some complaint, because we've been contaminated. Mm-hmm. So the first step is for adults to get together to watch it through, and then talk about how do we translate this for the next sitting with our children. Mm-hmm. How do we, what pieces do we want to identify for our children to pay special attention to? Remember, they're children.
Right.
I don't believe that there is some gender conversation, intergenerational conversation going on, but I'm not going to abdicate my responsibility to be an elder.
Right.
When I sit, there's a good proverb that I love, not only because I've become old now, people think I'm an elder, but the African proverb says that when an elder sits on a stool, they see farther than a child in a tree.
Mm. When the elder sits on the stool, they see farther than a child in a tree. So the things that I bring to the conversation, if I'm an elder, that I got to help my child climb down out of the tree and listen to. Mm-hmm. That's what we should do with Hapi. We should have elders looking at that, adults looking at that together, and then talk about what ways can I draw my attention to my child who's on the internet, who's doing Twitter and all that stuff. What things of Hapi can I pull out, extract, and share that with the youngers as conversation? That's when you have the intergenerational conversation. We can do the work first. We can't be lazy old folks to call ourselves elders. We have to do the work and then figure out, how do we translate that? How do I engage in this media with young people? But my job is to do the pinpointing, to point out. For example, there's a movie called Night John. And Night John is called Night John. It's about a brother who's free, but puts himself back in slavery to teach young people how to read. Mm. But he has done the work. And now he's got to figure out strategically, how do I not get killed while I teach this little girl how to read in the dirt, drawing out letters in the dirt. That's the model I'm saying. Old folks got to do the work and then figure out how not to get killed and pass on the wisdom and the insight to the next generation. The next generation, they can teach us how to work this stuff. They got to deal with this electronic stuff. They can teach me how, Daddy, Baba, you talking, but I can have your talk go to 4,000 people right now. Right. Well, what I did at the museum in Detroit, we had 400 people in the auditorium. Maybe. Yep, something like that, 350. Yep.
See? So there's a role for the genius of youth to be married with the genius of eldership.
Right.
Hapi's that gateway to do that. You can use Hapi to open up the gate to have that intergenerational conversation.
And I think what's good is for documentaries like this is, and I've shown various documentaries to youth and things like this, maybe show segments of it to youth and have them go do research on it, have a conversation with it, but then have them go do research on it to break down these different segments.
You know, old folk doing the work.
Yeah.
They have segmentized. You're right. There may be 5 segments that we can do Hapi with, and we can pull out one segment that maybe only our young girls should be dealing with. One segment that only our young boys should be dealing with. Young segment that only those are getting ready to go off to college, who need to be inoculated, need to be dealing with. See, that's the work I'm saying. The pre-work has to be done.
Exactly. And those are good assignments also for people who do homeschooling or people who are homeschooling their children involuntarily because of COVID-19. Those are assignments that, you know, you can do assign to your children. All right. Well, look, once again, Dr. Wade Noble's website is drwadenobles.com. Dr. WADENOBLES, drwadenobles.com. You can read more about him, get in contact with him, order his books, everything. Definitely support this brother. This is one of our Grandmaster Scholar Warriors. And also visit the website hapifilm.com, HAPI, hapifilm.com. The world premiere of the film is Thursday, July 18th, 2020, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Is online, and you can purchase tickets there and get more information. And, you know, I talked to Taki Grant, the director, about this project about a year and a half ago, and he wanted me in the film, but we could never connect to film our portion of it. So I'm on the marketing team. Well, look, brother, it's always good to talk to you, Dr. Wade Nobles. And go ahead.
Tell your audience, watch Hapi.
Yes.
When you watch it, talk back. Talk to the film. Say, that don't make no sense. Okay, wait, I hadn't thought about that. Talk to the film. Because it's that conversation, like old folks would do when back then we watched the cowboy movies. We rooting for the Indians, rooting for the cowboys, wherever your confusion took you. But talk to the film. Talk to it. Say, wait a minute, stop the film. Let me go back, let me rewind it and think about that some more. Right. Interact with the film. Don't just sit there passively and watch it.
Right. And that's something that you when Listervelt Middleton interviewed you about 30 years ago for the people, you talked about how that black stuff just comes out of us. And you talked about, because when that show used to come on, I had a tape recorder, and I put up to the TV and will record the shows, and I listened to them over like 100 times, man. Dr. Leonard Jeffries, Dr. Naeem Akbar, Dr. Ben, all that. But what you just talked about, because we watch movies differently than white people.
That's right. We do the way we do it, because our blackness will lead us.
Yeah.
That's that spirit. So we have Africans, so we have a knowing and knowable spirit.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what our spirit knows, but it comes out of us.
Right.
And sometimes we're embarrassed by it, but the spirit saying, no, you ain't supposed to take that shit no more. And you stop him. We say, where'd that come from? You have a knowing and noble spirit. And so we need to use our spirit as an intelligent entity to guide us.
Right. And you said in that interview, you talked about how when white people talked about how we were ugly, we came up with the blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice. The fight against that. That's that black stuff coming out of us.
That was a counter-ideological statement against white supremacy.
Right.
So everything about white is right, we just slapped them back with the blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice. Simple, precise, concise, accurate.
Exactly. I told you I study this stuff. I told you. Okay. Once again, I can't remember if I said Saturday night. It's not Saturday. It's Thursday. The world premiere is Thursday, July 18th of the film I'm sorry. Hold on. It's Saturday, July 18th. July 18th is correct. I got it correct. Saturday. You just sent me a note. Yeah. Saturday, July 18th, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Visit the website hapifilm.com for more information and to get tickets. Okay, brother. All right, Dr. Wade Nobles. Look, it's always good talking to you, brother. We'll bring you back. Go ahead.
Yeah, whatever this is that you got, I see a little recording thing on it. Whatever you got, I need it for my archives, because one day my grandchildren are going to want to see what did the granddaddy do.
Absolutely. I'll send this to you. Absolutely. Okay, brother. Hotep, you have a good day, okay? Peace to the family.
To talk with you.
Absolutely, brother.
You bring the black.
Right, what'd you say?
You bring the blackness out of me.
All right, man. All right. You take care, brother. It's always good talking to you. All right. Hotep. Okay, family. That was Dr. Wade Nobles. It's one of our Grandmaster Scholar Warriors. Once again, the world premiere of the film Hapi is Saturday, July 18th, 2020, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Visit the website hapifilm.com. Also, if you'd like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, $, the AHN Show through Cash App, $, the AHN Show through Cash App. or through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show. That helps us to keep doing the research, stay on the air, broadcast our Sunday night show. This past Sunday, I just interviewed Dr. Julian Malveaux, who is featured in the film Hapi also. Okay, economist Dr. Julian Malveaux. So look out for that. It's on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network, and we'll get that interview up on YouTube also. All right. All of my DVD lectures are also available at our website, africanhistorynetwork.com, africanhistorynetwork.com. And we have about 1,000 audio podcasts of interviews I've done and broadcasts I've done going back to 2010. That's at africanhistorynetwork.com as well. Click on listen to podcasts right on the homepage of the website. Follow me on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network. And then also follow me, internal notifications on Facebook, and then follow me on YouTube, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP, on YouTube as well, internal notifications, so you know when we go live. All right. Okay. And let's look here. Okay, we got Carrie just a few people watching. Yeah, so it's Saturday, July 18th, 2020, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you'll be able to digitally download the video after the movie after it airs, and they have other information for you also at their website, hapifilm.com, HAPI, hapifilm.com. Okay, and listen to the African History Network show Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We broadcast here on Facebook and YouTube, but also on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation WFDF in Detroit. I do radio here in Detroit. And because this is an election season, I'll be talking about 6 principles of political self-defense. We'll talk about that on my show Sunday. I'll go back through and we'll go through Joe Biden's agenda for African Americans. I did a 6-part series where I went through and broke down all 6 parts of his 22-page agenda. We're going to do that again because some people missed that. We're also going to talk about a whole concept I teach on called political self-defense, 6 principles of political self-defense, understanding how laws and policies impact the economic conditions of African Americans. Okay. And I also have a DVD lecture I've done dealing with 6 principles of political self-defense. There are actually 2 presentations on that DVD that's available at our website, africanhistorynetwork.com. I think I have it in digital download format also. All right. Well, look, we're going to get out of here. Hey, remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right knowledge corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So when you control the radius of a man's thoughts, you can control the circumference of his actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. Remember, right knowledge corrects wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you next time. Peace.